Matrix and welcome to Matrix. My name is Luni and today we're assisting you with your final exam prep for business studies. All you need to do to get your questions and comments through to us is hit us up on our social media platforms, search for Matrix, as well as our WhatsApp line. We've got a cool competition going on for you guys, so please stay tuned to get all of those details later on in the show. I've got Nicolene, our sign language interpreter, with me, as well as our awesome teacher, Dave. Thank you so much, guys, and over to you.
Hi Matrix, welcome to today's lesson. We'll be going over your paper one. Also, please can you download the app, as there'll be a couple of questions on the app that you guys will be able to answer, and we'll go through them a bit later. So without any further ado, let's get cracking onto paper one questions. This is just an example of a multiple choice question that you can do on the app. Please go ahead and do it now. You'll see that there's quite a few multiple choice questions. You can give your answers to there, and then we'll be discussing the various answers as we go on. So we're going to start first with the section B question. And it's explain the purpose of the Labour Relations Act. Now, this is an act that a lot of you get confused with in terms of the Employment Equity Act. So you need to make sure that you have a thorough understanding of all the different acts that are going to be relevant in terms of business studies and what is the purpose of those different acts. They can either ask the acts in a section B question where they ask a specific act, or they could look at the impact of the act in a section C essay type of question. So let's go through the answer on the purpose of the Labour Relations Act. So firstly, it provides a framework or structure for labour relations between employers, employees, and trade unions. So it gives that framework on how are we going to have these various stakeholders, how are they going to be able to interact with each other. Second part, it promotes collective bargaining at the workplace level. So it's very easy for an employer to say no to an individual employee. However, through collective bargaining, the individual employees are able to join with the other employees, and they have more of a voice through collective bargaining. And if they have more of a voice through collective bargaining, there's a greater chance of getting them what they are asking for. It promotes workplace forums to accommodate employees in decision making. So at the workplace forum, a business might say, right, we want to move our factory overseas to China. The workplace forum is an avenue in which the employees can discuss the possibility of the business moving to China or why it should stay in South Africa. So it just gives the employees a platform for them to voice their opinions. It provides the right for lockout by the employer as a recourse for lengthy strikes. So if the strike has gone on for a couple of weeks, even perhaps a couple of months, the employer has the right to lock out the striking workers so that they can't come into the premises and damage any assets that belong to the employer. It promotes fair labour practices between employers and employees, right, which is vital, because if there's fair labour practices, there's going to be trust between the employer and the employee, and that's going to increase the productivity of the business. Right, it clarifies and transfers employment contracts between existing and new employees. So it just says, right, this is what should be, what the minimum requirement should be for a contract of an employee. And then promote simple procedures for the registration of trade unions. So if a group of employees would like to start a trade union, it allows them to do that. Where if you look in the past, it was illegal for employees to just start any trade union that they want. It advances economic development and social justice to ensure that the workplace maintains the basic rights of employees, right? And you have known that employees are entitled to basic rights, and just make sure that none of the employees' rights are infringed upon. It establishes the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, or known as the CCMA. So if there's a dispute between the employer and the employee, right, they'll go to the CCMA, and they will be objective, and they will set out a ruling that either the employer or the employee will have to follow. Right, and it also establishes the labour courts and the labour appeal court, so that if the employee isn't happy with the CCMA, they can then go to the labour court. If the labour court finds against either the employer or the employee, they can then go to the labour appeals court to appeal the outcome. So we're going to be going on to a contextual-based question now. So I'm going to be reading it out to you and just see what you can pick up. So it's got to do with Meat Market Limited. Meat Market Limited specializes in supplying fresh meat to customers. The company gave some of its shares to their previously disadvantaged employees. Right, very, very big there. That should already be ringing a couple of bells there for you. They were also offered learnership programs. Right, so we can generally see where this question is going. So let's see what the question is going to ask from us. So the first question is, name the act that Meat Market Limited is complying with in the scenario above. Right, so the minute you see the word act, you know that it's a law. Right, so let's look at what act is there, and it's broad-based black economic empowerment. Right, do not confuse it with BEE. Right, broad-based black economic empowerment is a law that the government brought out, in which it regulates how businesses can take part in broad-based black economic empowerment. Right, so that's the first part of that question. Now there's a follow-up to the first question. So you need to ensure that you know what you're doing with the acts, because if you don't and you get the first question wrong, you're going to get the second question wrong, and you're going to lose out on a whole bunch of unnecessary marks there. So the second question was, identify two pillars of the act, broad-based black economic empowerment. Right. From the previous question that Meat Market Limited implemented, motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. Please make sure that when you quote, you put the quotation marks in there, so as to ensure that you don't lose the marks there. All right, so let's look at what the answer is. So the first one is ownership. That's one of the pillars of broad-based black economic empowerment. Right, so if you look there, the company gave some of its shares to their previously disadvantaged employees. Right, remember, broad-based black economic empowerment is about empowering all previously disadvantaged individuals. And the second one is skills development. Right, they were offered learnership programs. So we upskilling our the community or potential employees. So we're upskilling them there, which is a pillar of broad-based black economic empowerment. All right, let's move on to our next question. All right, so suggest practical ways in which a business may comply with the Employment Equity Act. All right, so this is an act that a lot of people get confused with in terms of broad-based black economic empowerment act, as well as the Labour Relations Act. So you want to make sure you have a very good understanding between the three acts. So let's look at the answer here. So firstly, you have to guard against any discriminatory appointments. So you cannot employ someone because you've discriminated against someone else, no matter what grounds there are. Right? And we have to assess the racial composition of all employees, including senior management. So if we look at it, the Employment Equity Act, it wants to create a workforce that is representative of the demographics of the country. We have to ensure that there's equal representation of all racial groups at every level of employment. Right, so if you look at your top, middle, and lower level management, as well as your actual employees, so it has to be representative of the demographics of the country. Right, it has to promote equal opportunities and fair treatment for everyone, no matter what racial group they are, their marital status, if they have disabilities, what religion they follow. Right? Everyone has a fair and equal opportunity in the workplace under this Act. And it must implement an employment equity plan, right? So where they're going to say, right, how are we going to ensure that our business is going to be representative of the demographics of the country? So you have to have a plan. Say, right, by this year, we're going to employ so many more women in the top management of the company, right? And you're going to have to hand those plans in, and they're going to check those plans to see if you are actually following through on them. Right, clearly define the appointment process so that all parties are well informed, right, so that there's no miscommunication or mistrust. And we use certified psychometric tests to assess applicants or employees to ensure that they are suitable candidates are appointed. So you can only use psychometric tests when it is applicable to that industry. So if you're an airline pilot, you're going to have to go on certain tests, right? That is applicable for when the pilots are flying a plane. Now, they can't use those same psychometric tests for myself as a teacher because it's not relevant to the work that I'm doing. And ensure that diversity and inclusivity in the workplace is achieved. Right? If we look at South Africa, we're a very diverse country. Right? We've got to ensure that everyone is able to be included because that's going to create a much more productive and a stronger culture in the workplace. Implement affirmative action measures to redress disadvantages experienced by certain groups in the past. Right? We have to prepare an employment equity plan in consultation with the employees to make sure that everyone is on the same page, right? And then we have to submit the employment equity plan to the Department of Labour, right? And there's a threshold in terms of how big your organization is before you actually have to submit your plan to the Department of Labour. You have to assign one or more senior managers to ensure the implementation and monitoring of the employment equity plan. So there has to be someone from top management to make sure that this equity plan is actually going to happen. Eliminate barriers that have an adverse impact on designated groups and accommodate people from different designated groups. So we're going to make sure that everyone feels welcome in our business and we can accommodate for everyone. So if you look at a lot of government buildings, there will be ways so that people who are disabled can get into the office. So there'll be office ramps, or there'll be special elevators, so that no one is left out. Everyone is included. We have to retrain, develop and train designated groups through skills development. Regularly report to the Department of Labour on the progress in implementing your plan, and employees must be paid equal for the equal value of work that they have. So you'll see that there's a lot of sports tournaments now where men and women get paid an equal amount, because they're saying they're doing the exact same amount of work, so therefore they should get paid equally. Our next question is recommend ways in which the quality of performance of the purchasing function could contribute to the success of the business. So we're now going to be looking at quality and how can the purchasing function add to that quality. So firstly, the businesses should buy raw materials or products in bulk at lower prices. So we buy in bulk, we're able to get it for cheaper. If we can get our products for cheaper, we're going to make more profit. If we make more profit, chances of our business being more sustainable are going to increase significantly, and will also help prevent the business from taking big knocks when there's a financial downturn in the economy. We have to select reliable suppliers that render the best quality raw materials at reasonable prices. So if you look at Rolls-Royce, they are going to go and buy leather from the best leather makers in the world, because that's what their product is about. Their product is all about quality. So they have to make sure that they go and get the best suppliers for their raw materials, because that is what they're going to be selling to their customers. We have to place orders timelinessly to make sure that goods are delivered on time, that we don't run out of goods. You just think of Eskom when they were running out of coal, then we had load shedding, and how negatively that impacted the country. So we've got to make sure everything is on time, ensure that there's no break in production due to stock shortages, as I just mentioned. Right. There must be effective coordination between the purchasing, so that the purchasing staff understand the requirements of the production process, and we should always make sure that we have the required quantity should be delivered at the right time and at the right place. We must maintain effective stock control systems to make sure that we don't run out of stock or we don't have too much stock, and maintain optimal stock levels to avoid overstocking, because we don't want to have to rent another warehouse to take in all of our stock. Then effective use of storage space, and we have to involve our suppliers in strategic planning, right? Because if our suppliers can give us the right products that we want and everything that we're looking for, then we're going to be on a winning wicket. And we must establish relationships with our suppliers, because if we've got a relationship with them, our supplier is not going to want to let us down, and we can build a strong relationship going forward where our supplier and our business are both going to benefit. And then we must have a thorough understanding of supply management. And Luni, back to you.
Thank you, Dave. Guys, as Dave said earlier, please download the 2Enable app to take part in that assessment. It is for free on your app store, so head on over there and check it out, and then we'll check some of your answers later on in the show. But for now, we are going to take a quick break, guys, and we'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, Matrix. I hope you guys are still enjoying the show. If you've just joined us, we are doing your final exam prep to help you with the upcoming exam. If you're constantly running out of data, then this next competition is just for you. Wazimatrix is bringing you the hashtag WazoWinner competition, where 2 lucky matriculants stand a chance to win 2 gigs of data. All you need to do to enter is head on over to our Facebook page, and all of the details will be there. Dave, thank you so much, and over to you.
Welcome back, Matrix. We're going to be going over some more questions from your paper 1. First question we're going to go over is name 3 types of business environments and state the extent of control businesses have over each of these environments. Now, this is quite a tricky question, because a lot of you get confused between business environments and business sectors. Right? So you need to make sure that you understand the difference between the two there. So often what they'll give you is they'll ask you to answer it in tabular form. So just make sure that you can draw a quick table, try and make it as neat as possible, just to help your final markers. So let's go and see what the answer for this question is. So if we look, the first environment is the microenvironment. So the microenvironment is the business itself. Now, you'll see with the answer behind me, it has to do with the micro, market, and macro environment, where a lot of people get confused between the different sectors of the economy, whereby you have the primary sector, you have the secondary sector, and you have the tertiary sector. Remember, the primary sector has to do with the extraction of raw materials from the earth. Think of farming, think of mining, think of forestry, think of fishing. The secondary sector has to do with taking those raw materials and manufacturing them into either finished products or into products that can be used by other businesses. And then the tertiary sector has got to do with supplying services to the consumer. So think of the tertiary sector such as banking, and the secondary sector such as car manufacturers, where the question was asking us, tell us about the 3 different business environments that we have and state the control of each environment. So the first environment, as I mentioned, is the microenvironment. Now, every business is the microenvironment. So it doesn't matter if you're a farmer, right, because your farm would be considered as your microenvironment, the actual business itself, or if you a car manufacturer, your microenvironment is still the business itself, despite you operating in the secondary sector. If you look at a bank, the business itself is the microenvironment, despite them operating in the tertiary sector. So make sure that you understand the difference between the two there, that you don't lose easy marks. Now, the microenvironment, the business has full control over. So we determine what we want our mission and vision to be, what strategy we want, who do we want to employ in the business, what is the organization culture of the business. We have full control over that. Doesn't mean because we have full control over that we're going to be successful. There's a lot of other factors there, but we have full control. We can decide who do we want to work in our business. What does our business want to sell? What do we have to offer? So we can control that fully. No one else from the outside can come in and be like, right, this is what you should be selling today. Right? So we have full control there. Now, the second business environment is the market environment. So that is the environment that is just outside of the business itself. So if we look there, the market environment is going to have our suppliers. It's going to have intermediaries. It's going to have our competition. Right? It's going to have civil society. So our trade unions are going to form a part of that. So this is the environment that impacts the business. Now, if you look at the extent of control that we have in the market environment, we have partial or limited control. Right? So if you look at a soft drinks company, they can advertise and try and influence you to buy more of their products. Right? However, they have not got full control over their consumers. They can't say, right, today you will go and buy a 1 liter cold drink from our company. They can influence us, though, by having adverts or competitions or promotions to try and get us to buy that product. Then the final environment is our macro environment. So our macro environment, we have absolutely no control. Right? So if you look at the political environment of the United States, now that has got nothing to do with our individual business. However, the outcome of a United States election can have a massive impact on our business itself, because maybe they going to bring in different tariffs. So if you look at the trade war between the United States and China, even though South Africa has nothing to do with it, it did have a negative impact on businesses in South Africa. If you look at when there was the COVID lockdown, that had a negative impact on the business. So your business might have had nothing to do with people interacting with each other, but because the president brought in a lockdown and said a lot of non-essential businesses would have to shut down for the period of the lockdown, right, that had a direct impact on our business. So I can't control that. I cannot control what the exchange rate with the rand and the dollar is going to be. I cannot control what laws are going to come in. I cannot control technology. Right? I have to, however, adapt to it. But in terms of the business environment, we have got no control. So you can see in the micro environment, we've got full control. We can sort out everything that we want. The market environment, we got partial or limited control, in whereby we can influence our consumers. We might have a superior product to our competitors, and because of that, we can influence them. We can also work with like our suppliers to make sure that we have the best suppliers, and we can influence them by making sure we pay them on time. And in the macro environment, that's where we have absolutely no control, right? And our businesses have to learn how to adapt to that. Otherwise, our businesses will be going by the wayside. So we are now going to identify leave provisions in the Basic Conditions of Employment Act from the various statements. So we're going to see what type of leave are they saying in the statement? Now remember, we get different types of leave, and you need to make sure that you use the correct terminology for this leave, because if you don't use the correct terminology, you're going to be losing out on some easy marks. So let's see what the first question is saying. So it says, Ruth, the secretary, was allowed to stay home for 4 consecutive months after her baby was born. Right, okay, so there's a big clue there. They're talking about her giving birth to a baby, and she was allowed to be off work for 4 consecutive months. So if we look at the potential answers for it, it is going to be maternity leave. Right? So maternity leave is entitled to women when they give birth to a child, or even if they adopt a newborn child, they're entitled to 4 consecutive months of leave from the company. All right, let's look at our next one. So Ashley, the supervisor, is entitled to take up to 21 days leave per year. All right, so it's not mentioning anything about him potentially being sick. So in terms of any sick leave, it's not mentioning anything about family responsibility leave. It's just saying that he is entitled to 21 days of leave. All right, so if you look there, the law states that everyone's entitled to that leave, right? Because we don't want to work everyone to the bone, because otherwise we're going to lose out on productivity. So if we look at the type of leave that we'll have there, it is going to be our annual leave. All right, so that's a leave that everyone is entitled to for working for the entire year. All right, Luni, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dave. Guys, we are going to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, guys. I hope you are still enjoying the show. We're assisting you with your final exam prep to help with the upcoming exams. Dave, thank you so much, and over to you.
So we're going to be going over some multiple choice questions now from the app. So we're going to be looking at the various options, and we're also going to be seeing how you have answered these multiple choice questions, and just to try and help you guys where you're getting confused with some certain concepts, and that's why you guys were answering them wrong there. So if we look at the first question, right, so Teddy car manufacturers implemented the following integration strategy when they bought Tail Motor Spares. Right, so they're a car manufacturer, and now they're buying a motor spares business. So we always see, right, now where is this going to fit in? So let's look at the 4 options that we have. So first thing we got, is it horizontal integration, intensive integration, forward integration, or backward integration? So let's just have a look how you have answered. So the vast majority of you have gone for horizontal integration. A few of you went for intensive. A fair amount of you went for forward, and then a small group of you went for backward. So if we look at the answer is actually, there's 2 possible answers for this question. It can either be forward or backward integration. So if we look at horizontal integration, why it isn't horizontal integration is because they are not buying another car manufacturer. So a horizontal integration is when we buy a business that is the exact same as ours. If you look at intensive strategies are there to grow your market share. So it's definitely not an intensive strategy. Where now we have forward and backward. So what could potentially happen here in terms of forward? So Teddy car manufacturers, they make cars, and what they're going to do is they're going to buy a cars spares supplier, so that they can make sure that the parts that their customers are buying are of the correct quality for Teddy car manufacturers. So there they are taking control of their distributors to make sure that their customers are getting the best products possible. Now, why it's also backward is because Teddy car manufacturers could decide, right, we need to make sure that we are getting the best supply possible. So in order for us to do that, we need to go and buy our suppliers so we can control our suppliers and the quality of the products that our suppliers are getting, so that when they are installed into the car, the clients that are buying our cars are getting the best possible quality car out there. So it ensures that there's quality from the parts that they're getting all the way up to the final product that the customer buys. Or if they're going for forward, it's making sure that the customers are able to get any spare parts that they would need for their cars there. So it can be a little bit confusing. Just remember, forward, we're going closer towards our customers, and backward, we are going closer towards our suppliers to ensure that we have the right quality coming into our business. And when we're going forward, it's to make sure that our clients are getting the best possible quality out there. All right, let's go on to our next question. Businesses use quality to direct key processes so that the correct quality standards are met. And the options that we have is either quality control, quality management systems, quality assurance, as well as quality performance, right? So this can be a little bit of a tricky question. Quality, it's quite in depth in Matric, so make sure that you understand all the different elements of quality there. So we're going to look at the answers there. So if we look at the answer is management systems, and seems quite a fair amount of you've got that on the money there. So we can see that you guys are starting to understand that there. A couple of you have gone down the wrong path. Just make sure that you understand the differences in the different elements that has to make up with quality. All right, so if we go on to our next question, ABC Paints operates in the sector as they specialize in manufacturing of paint. Right, so this is, if you recall, I spoke about the business environments and the sectors of the economy and the differences there. Now, this is a question that just relates to the sectors of economy. So let's look at the options that we have for the for this question here. So option A is secondary, option B is primary, option C is tertiary, and the final option is the economic sector. All right, so let's go see how you guys have done there. So we've got a lot of A for secondary. Quite a few of you have got for the primary, and then very little of you picked for tertiary and for the economic. And if we look at our answer, it is the secondary sector. Right, so if we look there, they are manufacturing paint. Right, so when they manufacture paint, they're taking raw materials that they would have got from the primary sector, and they could have also possibly bought some other raw materials from other secondary sector enterprises, right, and then they are making that paint, that final product, right, which is the secondary sector. So they'll either sell that product to consumers, or they'll sell it to businesses in the tertiary sector so that they can create a service for their consumers. So manufacturing, as soon as you see the term manufacturing, start to think of the secondary sector because it's got to do with manufacturing and converting those raw materials into semi-finished products or finished products. All right, so if we look at the next question, this act, so the minute that you see the word act, think of the law, so you know that we're dealing with the law now, regulates the implementation of affirmative action when a business appoints new workers. Right, so we've got our various options here. So the first one is the Consumer Protection Act. Right. Option B is the Employment Equity Act. Right. Option C is the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act. And then finally, option D is the Labor Relations Act. So we've got 4 different acts here. So let's see how you guys performed in this one. So not many for the Consumer Protection Act. We've got quite a few for the Employment Equity Act. Not many for the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act, and then a lot of you went for the Labor Relations Act. Now, this is something where a lot of you get confused between the Employment Equity Act and the Labor Relations Act when it comes to affirmative action. So the answer that we were actually looking for was the Employment Equity Act. Remember that there are provisions in that act that have to deal with redressing past imbalances. The Employment Equity Act is all about making sure that the business is representative of the demographics of the country. So, and if need be, they can use affirmative action in which to redress any imbalances there. Where if you look at the Consumer Protection Act, that's got to do with making sure that consumers aren't getting taken advantage of, making sure that the goods and services that we buy are safe for us, that we have all the information we need when buying particular products. If you look at broad-based Black economic empowerment, that act has to do with redressing past imbalances and giving people that were previously disadvantaged chances to partake in the economic development of the country. So just make sure that you understand your different acts effectively, because if you don't, you're going to get confused with them and you're going to lose out on a lot of marks. You could potentially lose out 10% of your paper if you don't understand which acts belong where. All right, so our final thoughts before your exam: please, whatever you do, make sure you get an early night's sleep. You want to be aiming for at least 8 hours. Try and make sure that you regulate your sleeping time so it's not out of sync, so that you're feeling nice and fresh for the morning. Read the instructions carefully. I've seen a lot of mistakes where some learners answer all 3 questions from section B rather than just 2 questions, or they answer both essay questions. Right? They're not going to count for the full amount there. You're only going to mark the first question of your essay question. They're only going to mark the first 2 questions of your section B question. And on top of that, if you're doing extra questions, you're just going to be using up your time, and you're not going to be using your time as efficiently as you should. So business studies is all about making sure that we're using our time as efficiently as possible, because if we don't, we're going to run out of time, and you can lose a lot of marks there. And that can be the difference between you getting a distinction, can be the difference between you passing and failing, or getting enough points for your university or tertiary education. So make sure you read the instructions carefully. Read the questions carefully. When they ask you to quote, make sure that you quote correctly with your quotation marks, so that you don't lose out on any unnecessary marks there. As I said, manage your time. Right? You are allowed to start to answer with any question that you want to. So if you want to start with your essay question first, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to start with your section B, that's fine there. Just please don't waste a lot of time on your section A questions where you're reading the different options and you get stuck there, because you can always go back to them, and it's very quick to write the answers down for that, compared to your section B and your section C's where you have to write in full sentences. So just make sure that you're managing your time effectively. Always look at the clock and go according to the time guidelines that they'll give you in the exam there. Make sure you leave yourself enough time. I would recommend that when you have your 10 minutes reading time, start with your essay question, see which of the essay questions you'd like to attempt, and then you can start with that, and then you can read your section A questions. And all the best, matriculants. I'm sure you guys are absolutely going to go out there and crush it, and don't have any regrets by not studying hard enough. Luni, back to you.
Thank you, Dave. Matrix, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of tips and got enough help that you need in order to prepare for your exams. We're wishing you everything of the best. We hope you ace your exams. And if you need any help, guys, you still have time. Hit us up on our social media platforms and we'll assist you as best as we can. Congratulations to all of the competition winners who will be announced after the show on our Facebook page. And don't forget, guys, we still have more revision for you. Just check out our schedule on www.wozomatrix.co.za. If you miss any of the shows, they are uploaded on our YouTube channel as well. So just search for Wozomatrix and you'll find them there. But then from Luni, Nicoline and Dave, thank you and goodbye.
Matric class of 2020, congratulations for being so brave, so committed, and for staying the course during one of the most difficult years in our history. We're here to support you all the way. Our Wozomatric campaign was set up to support you up until the 8th of December 2020. We are offering you interactive exam guides, shows on SABC3, DSTV, Catch Up, and OVHD Channel 122 that are not to be missed. I wish you all the best in your final exams. You are the hope and the future of our country, and we're so proud of you for coming this far. No matter the outcome, you are at the finish line. Now give it your very, very best. And I thank you.
In this session, we're going to talk about foundations for life. What are your foundations? And what are your values? So our values are our foundations, and we're going to look at them for life and success. But when it comes to our values, we have to set them in place and fit life around them. That's how they work. So I've got an activity for you over here, Jonathan. I've got this. This signifies us, who we are. The sand signifies life, everything that we do in life, whatever it may be. But I've got something else for you over here. I have got some stones, and we're going to call these our big rocks. So our big rocks are our values in life. That's what we're going to do, because I want you to remember that when you walk through the field, when you walk in anywhere and you stumble on a big rock, I want you to remember values. So these are our values, and I'm going to ask you to please fit your values into your life, which is in a bucket of sand. Okay. All right. I want it in nicely. What the whole aim is here, I want to be able to close this up tight.
Okay.
And, okay. All right, you're doing great. You can get your hands dirty, it's okay. All right. Okay, that's a really big rock.
This is going to be impossible.
It's not. Come on, try. You've got to try something. All right, clearly you're not doing well.
It can't work.
Why?
I think we need to try something else.
Okay, what are you going to try?
I think we need to take the sand out first.
Okay.
And put the big rocks in first.
Okay,
and then
so
put everything else in.
All right, try it. Okay, so let's talk about what these big rocks are. Let's see while Jonathan does that. So, hey, Renil, why don't you please just come in, and Renil was going to help us with our values. So let's look. We've all got different values, but we're going to look at some main values right now. So our main values, what would the first one be? Won't you put it up for us? Okay, we are looking at honesty. That's really a great value because it's a foundation in life. We can base everything on honesty. Then people trust us. We're honest in our exams. We're honest in what we do. Our family trusts us. Okay, so big rock. Okay, I think that's a very big one. You can put that one in.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's see. We don't have enough rocks here for all of those. We've got examples. What's the next value that we're going to put up, Renil? Discipline. We need to be disciplined in life. There's all sorts of areas of discipline that we can apply this in. It could be discipline with your studies. It could be discipline at home. It can be discipline in looking after yourself, keeping your hair, I won't touch your hair, keeping your hair done nicely. Whatever the discipline is, disciplined in our time management, Discipline is a value that we need to learn. And the next one, Reniel, where? Time management. Oh, we've already mentioned that, but time management, do you want to pop a rock in there, Jonathan? Time management is really important for us for school. It's important for our careers. It's important for our studies. If you don't learn how to manage your time, things just spin out of control. We have to manage our time. Once we know our time and we are able to look at arriving at school on time, we'll get to work on time, studying on time. Next one. Goals. Goals are very important in life. If we don't have goals, or things that we want to work towards, that should be a value. It should be a big rock. What are our goals? So, come on, put in your big rock. We've got, let's set our goals in place, because when we set our goals in place, we can then put life around it. And what else have we got there? Rest. Okay, we don't often do this, or we like to rest too much. So it's either resting a lot, a little, but rest is a big rock. Because if we don't rest, we can bomb out. Whether it's in exams, whatever it may be in life, we need rest, but also not too much of it, like as in sleeping all the time. So show me now what you're going to do with the sand. Okay. So we're fitting in life.
All the other things around our big rocks and around our values.
Okay. Can I shake this for you? All right. So it's the same amount of sand, guys. We didn't change it. Okay, so let's keep on going. Is this going to fit in, dude? I can't. Okay, wait. I'll do this. You move it. It's a bit heavy for me. Maybe we need to bang it a bit, lift it up and bang it down. Are you sure this is going to fit in?
I think we'll fit this time.
Hey! Look at that! And we can put the lid on. Yo! Okay, so when we put in our big rocks in life, our values, those things that we look at and count as the most important, we can then fit the rest of life around it. So what are your values? Maybe you need to write them down and start deciding, what am I setting in place for now, for my studies, for my career, for my future, for my family? Let's set them in place and then fit the rest of your life in.